Do you want to know what the fastest and easiest way is to rebuild your credit? It's through credit cards. My name is Monica Main, and I'm a serial entrepreneur and real estate investor, and I'm here to share with you exactly how to quickly and easily rebuild your personal credit profile with credit cards. Now, there's a difference between the two different kinds of credit cards depending on what your mid-FICO score is right now today. So for example, if your credit score is below 600, then likely you're going to have to get what's called a secured credit card. So there's an unsecured credit and there's secured credit. Unsecured credit means that you don't have to have collateral to be able to use the credit, meaning you don't have to have a bank account that has locked away funds or some other kind of collateral to be able to back up the loan or the credit. However, when you're dealing with secured credit, you do have to have some kind of collateral. So when you're dealing with a secured credit card, you're going to have to go ahead and get a bank account established with the credit issuing bank to be able to then have them open up a credit card for you. Now, the reason you want to do this is because having a credit card will drastically improve your FICO score almost immediately by simply using the card. So for example, I always tell people never use your debit card for anything unless you're going directly to the issuing bank to use that debit card to be able to get cash out of that bank. Otherwise, you should not be using your debit card to buy groceries, to go get gas, or to make any purchases online. Because what happens is that if anybody steals your debit card number, that means that they'll wipe out your bank account, and it usually takes weeks, and in fact, sometimes in some cases, depending on the bank, months for them to square away all of the damage that happens when they wipe out your bank account in that way. So you should always be using a credit card anyway. So the intent is not only to protect your personal bank account, to make sure that nobody can take away all of your funds in nefarious acts of basically ripping off your credit card, but also to start building credit. So if you're going to be buying groceries anyway, which guaranteed you probably are, or buying gas or anything else on a day-to-day basis, you should be using a credit card anyway and never a debit card. So if you cannot get an unsecured credit card, then you should look into getting a secured credit card. And so I have 3 recommendations for you for what we call fresh start banks that like to issue credit cards to people who have really shaky credit. And in some cases, they'll give you an unsecured credit card unless your FICO score is really in the toilet, in which case you're going to have to get a secured credit card. So I always recommend that people apply for an unsecured credit card first and foremost. If they reject you, then you can communicate and contact them as far as getting a secured credit card. So here's how it would work. You have 3 different credit issuing banks that I recommend that are really good for fresh new start. So in other words, if you file for bankruptcy, or if you're just trying to get a new start in life on the credit side, then I recommend Capital One, unless of course you screwed them over in some way, in which case don't apply for Capital One. So for example, if you've had a Capital One card and you file for bankruptcy against them or didn't pay and there's a judgment against you with Capital One, then don't get a Capital One, obviously. But if you've never dealt with Capital One is really good about giving people that have had credit problems in the past, provided it wasn't with them, a fresh new start and a brand new unsecured credit card. Now, if you don't qualify for the unsecured credit card, you can always get a secured credit card. And the secured credit card could be anywhere from $500 to $1,000. I think as low as $250 with most credit issuing banks. You have to start somewhere. So if all you could afford is a couple $100, then get a couple $100 secured credit card to start rebuilding your credit. So Capital One's a really good one. First Premier Bank is also a really good fresh start credit issuing bank where you can start off with trying to get yourself an unsecured credit card. And if you cannot, then go ahead and apply for a secured credit card. I really do like First Premier Bank. And then the last one that I recommend is called Applied Card Bank or Applied Bank. An Applied Bank can also potentially give you an unsecured credit card, but many times if you do have a really low FICO, you're going to have to go for the secured credit card method. So again, you could start off with trying to apply for an unsecured card. When they deny you, or if they deny you, then you communicate and contact them, call them up on the phone and say, listen, can I get myself a secured credit card to start the process of reestablishing my credit with you? And then they will offer you some options. They will say, well, we offer programs as low as $250. All you have to do is send us a cashier's check or a money order for this amount with this application, and then we can open up in a secured credit card for you. Now, I will warn you, many of these banks will hold the money pretty much forever. So I would caution you against getting an unsecured, or rather a secured credit card for, say, $5,000, because if they open up a card account using that $5,000 that they will bank in their own bank, and that will be used as collateral in case you don't pay on that credit card, they will lock that away in their own bank for pretty much forever until you close the account. And by the way, you never want to close a credit account, especially one in good standing, because that will drastically drop your FICO points if you just close an account just like that. So once you open up these accounts, you never want to close them. So when I was reestablishing my credit back in 2003, after I had to file for bankruptcy, I started with these credit card companies, starting with Capital One, First Premier, and Applied Card Bank, which back then was actually called Orchard Bank. And even before then, I was using a company called Cross Country Bank, which is not in effect anymore. They don't exist anymore. So right now, the only ones left are like Capital One, First Premier, and Applied Bank. And so those are really good for helping to reestablish your credit. So I had to start off with secured credit cards because my credit was just a disaster. So one of the first credit issuing banks I used was First Premier. They gave me an unsecured card, but then I went to Applied Bank and they would not give me an unsecured card. So I did a secured card with them, and I did a $5,000 secured credit card with them. Now here we are, fast forward all these years, do the math. This was back in 2003. Fast forward all these years, they still have that $5,000, okay? So they keep that money pretty much forever. Now, many times you could just call them up on the phone and have them release the funds, especially once your FICO points are up there. But there is a specific bank that will allow you to have the money back within, it usually takes about 12 months or 1 year from the time that you opened up the secured account. And you open up a secured credit card account, and as long as you're making your payments on time and everything's all, hunky-dory, then what will end up happening is that they will give you that secured balance back to you in the form of a cashier's check. They'll mail it to you, or they'll deposit it in your account, whichever you prefer, if you actually have a bank account there. And then they'll give you that money back after a year. And that is Bank of America. So if you go to Bank of America, and you basically ask for a secured credit card because you know that your credit is not that good. And by the way, Bank of America scores a huge amount of points when it comes to other creditors or potential loan companies looking at your credit report. Bank of America obviously is a much larger bank than some of the two-horse towny kind of banks that are out there. So you definitely want a Bank of America credit card on your credit report if you can possibly get one. But you would start with a secured card, maybe around $1,000 if you have it, $500 if you have it. And then after 1 year of you having a really good payment history with them, they will give you that money back. And so I know there's other banks that do that, but I know right off the top of my head, Bank of America is really good at doing that. And so if you are interested in working with Bank of America, I have my own personal banker I do recommend. Her information will be located in the box below. And if you're interested in getting yourself a secured credit card for yourself at Bank of America, then I strongly urge that you look in the description box below and grab her phone number and call her up on the phone and just say, Monica Main sent me and I would like to get myself a personal secured credit card. What can you do to help me? And she will be able to help you. So that's a really good way to reestablish your credit. Listen, it's not just a matter of you chiseling away at disputes and trying to remove the adverse negative things that are impacting your FICO score and your credit reports. That's not how it all works. Yes, that's a start. That's definitely what you need to do to fix your credit. But at the same time, you have to start rebuilding your credit right off the bat. Like literally the second you have your bankruptcy discharged, or the very second you decide to get your head out of your butt and decide to actually do something about your credit, not only should you be fixing your credit from the FICO standpoint and from the credit bureau standpoint by disputing all of the negative things on your credit reports, but you should also be rebuilding your credit at the same time, simultaneously. And the biggest and easiest way of doing that is getting yourself a secured credit card. So to recap, my top 3 favorite secured credit card companies are Capital One, First Premier Bank, and Applied Card Bank. But if you want to get your money back in a year, by putting in some money on your secured credit card and showing a really good payment history for 12 months and then getting that money back after a year, that I strongly suggest that you get the personal secured credit card from Bank of America. And in the description box below, I will give you my personal banker's information. You can call her up on the phone. Her name is Doris. Tell her I sent you, and she'll be more than happy to open up a secured personal credit card for you with Bank of America, which, by the way, shows really nice on your personal credit report. So again, it's not just all about ripping apart and taking off all of the negatives on your credit report. You definitely have to start rebuilding at the same time, and this is the fastest and easiest way that I know how to do that. So I also included some dispute letters in the description box below, as well as a software that you could use that could help you repair your credit as quickly as possible. So all that info is located in the description box below. If you like this video, give me a nice thumbs up, as well as subscribe to my channel. It helps me out a lot. This is Monica Main signing off, and I will see you in the next video.